Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the AACUC Presents FIS Collection Solutions webinar. All lines have been muted. At the end of the session, we will be opening up for Q&A. You can submit any questions in the Q&A chat box or use the raise your hand feature next to your name. I also want to mention that this meeting is being recorded, and I will now pass it over to James for our welcome.
Thank you, Nicole, and welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to talk to many of you once again. Just a quick note before I really get into it. There will be a quick post-event survey from me, so if you could fill that out for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps me refine the content that we're delivering to our partners in the AACUC. Want to take a moment to express my gratitude to Ms. Renee Sattywhite, the CEO of the AACUC, personal friend and mentor who I look to for guidance on many topics, and the insight into the credit union movement is just exceptional. And as always, I appreciate everything that you do for me, Renee. You're tremendous. I'll pass it to Ms. Renee in just one moment. I wanted to just talk to you for a quick second about why collections, why I asked for this opportunity. It's because for the credit union movement, collections right now is exceptionally important, right? And while we haven't seen a spike in actual collections, what we are seeing is a year-over-year nosedive in net income for the credit union industry, and we see the allowance for loan and lease losses by our CFOs across the board, large and small, the credit unions we serve, up tremendously, well up over 20% year over year. So our CFOs are seeing something on the horizon, and as leagues and partners, it's best to help them prepare for that. And as we talk about what we do, keep in mind this event is us sharing some of our best practices so that hopefully you can gain some insight and the opportunity for you to take things back to your individual credit union. So again, thank you for your time. And Renee, the floor is yours, ma'am. Thank you again for today.
Well, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. I want to say, James, you know that AACUC Board of Directors and staff, we love us some James, honey. James G. But having said that, it's because he brings such powerful information to our membership. And I wanted to make sure that with the new partnership we have with Commitment to Change, Credit Unions Unite Against Racism, and all the leagues being part of AACUC, that we brought this to you so that you can have something in your arsenal to help you help your credit unions. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christine. Christine.
Thank you. I just want to start by first thanking you for the time you're taking today to listen to our presentation and hear about FIS collections, and I really hope that it'll be helpful for you. Nicole, if you want to go to the first slide, we can actually skip over this one. So we're complete payment recovery services. But FIS collections can be used interchangeably. Just for filing reasons, we go by CPRS. So you might see both of those names, and if you do, that is why. So our actual facility is located in Jacksonville, Florida. We actually just moved down here from Tuscaloosa, Alabama a few months back. The main reason was we wanted a better building with room for growth, and we wanted to be closer to headquarters so that we had better resources. We currently have about 350 collectors who work out of this office, and about 250 of them are collectors, but we have an additional 100 who just work in the call center with us, supporting anything that is needed to be done. We really like Jacksonville because there's a great hiring pool. We have two great local universities, Jacksonville University and the University of North Florida. We just want to work to make sure that we have the best collectors possible, and we love that we have those universities to hire from. We have very low attrition. I think the industry standard is usually about 6 months, and our employees are generally with us from anywhere from 3 to 5 years. We find that's mostly because we do hire college-age students, but we also have people who have been with us for 15 to 30 years who love working in our collections facility, and they stay with us for their whole career. We take pride in having a really strong management team. Together, they have over 100 years of experience, and we do consider ourselves experts in both first and third-party collections. Our expertise really lies within the banking and credit union field, but we also have healthcare and retail clients as well. If you look at how our business is divided, about 70% of our business is credit unions and banks, and about 30% is retail clients. So we have big clients like Walmart, Macy's, Target, but we also mostly have small banks, credit unions, medium-sized banks. We take pride in having a large, diverse client portfolio, and we just want to help as many companies as possible. So all of our data is stored in the U.S., and all of our collectors are also within the United States. The main data center is in Jacksonville, Florida, and it follows all of the internal and external audits you would expect. Here at FIS, we make sure that everything is as secure as possible. So, you know, your members' information is safe, and anything at the call center is safe at all times. You can find all of your SOC 1 Type 2 PCI reports within our client portal that I'll go over a little bit later in the presentation. And we do have a strong business continuity plan set up. So we have collectors in St. Petersburg, Florida, and Little Rock, Arkansas, that are ready to go if anything were to happen here in Jacksonville. And we also have backup data centers in those cities as well. So there'll never be any lag time, or the facility will never have to fully close if something does happen in Jacksonville. Since we are in Florida and hurricanes do happen occasionally, you can always feel secure that we will not have to go down if something were to happen. Can we go to the next slide, please? This slide is just really a quick look at what the actual facility looks like. If you've ever been to Jacksonville, it's located off Bay Meadows. It's in a new building that we really like, and it's a great space for our collectors. Can we go to the next slide? Perfect. So this is just a little bit of a dive into basically everything we do. So again, we're a full collections facility, meaning we do both first and third-party collections, pre-charge-off and post-charge-off debt. In the middle, you can see the most common types of debt we collect on, which are demand deposit accounts, retail checks, credit cards, accounts receivable, mortgages, lines of credit, and consumer loans. But we really can collect on any type of debt except student loans. So anything that a credit union needs help with collecting, we are certified and ready to help. We've been in the business for over 50 years, and we are licensed and registered in all 50 states. So no matter where your members are, if they relocate, we will be able to help, no problem. As a business, we collect about $500 million annually, and we're really proud of that number. Our facility is prepared to take on as much business as we can, and there's no issue with hiring more collectors and training them if we are ever in need of more. We can go on to the next slide. So this is just a little bit of a dive in how we actually go about our collections. So first of all, we have our own proprietary collections platform called AACUC that was built internally by FIS, and it's what all of our agents work out of. It can operate with any type of debt. So if you're working with us, we can set up from our team side a batch report or a secure file transfer, and it will automatically upload into our AACUC platform for our collectors to start working out of. It's really great, and it has a lot of tools already generated into it to make our agents as productive as possible. We also utilize LiveBox, which is a cloud-based dialer solution, and it's TCPA and PCI compliant. We're really big on campaigns in our call center. We like to do them during certain times of the day, you know, maybe power hour, during lunch, or in the evening, or historically when people are most likely to answer the phone. We're bigger on doing them around certain types of the year, too. A good example is tax season, but our dialer really helps us do that. It has all of the regulations programmed into it, so our collectors can call at certain times of the day in specific regions, but it'll also make sure that they don't make any calls that are not allowed at certain times of the day. So it really helps our collectors remain compliant, because if they try to dial into a person who is not supposed to be contacted at a certain time, it won't even allow them to make the call. We also use skip tracing services. So if we get a busy tone, or we find that it's not the right person or not the right address, we use skip tracing to make sure that we are able to get in contact with the right person. We use free tools like White Pages, Yahoo, Google, but we also use paid tools like TransUnion and Accurate. And then we have a really cool program called Predictive Metrics that was also created within FIS. We don't like to use bureau scores or data just because we find that it can be skewed when it comes to debt. We want to rank the collectability of a debt based off of data like age, size, region it comes from. A lot of different metrics go into it, but the program automatically scores it from a 1 to a 3. And then the way we handle the debt is different. So maybe you have a lot of debt that is newer and some that's older. It'll make sure that the older debt is collected first, or the debt that we think might be a little bit harder to collect will go to a certain agent. It's a really great predictive software that really helps the right agent at the right time get the right debt, and to make sure that your collections rate is as high as possible. And we also give members 3 ways to make payments. So they can do so over the phone with the agent, the traditional way, and they can also call back and use our IVR through our dialer if they don't want to speak to someone. And then we also have a third option, which is an online payment tool. We can embed the link to the tool in our initial Miranda letter, and we can also send it out through an email, and that will just, let them go online and make the payment. That way, without speaking to someone, we want to be as understanding as possible with members, and not everyone wants to have a conversation about their debt, and we completely understand that. So we want to be able to give them options to, make the payment in whatever fashion they would feel most comfortable. And then the last piece of this slide is centered around quality. So our president's name is Janelle Clark. She's been with us for over 25 years, and we really love her. She is great and has a lot of experience handling and managing almost any kind of debt you can imagine. Also, when it comes to quality, we make sure that we are archiving all of the calls 3 to 5 years. It's different in every state, but we are making sure that they're monitored based off the statute of limitation in each of the states. And all of our employees go through extensive training and recertification semi-annually. Training is something that we're very big on. Here at CPRS, we want to make sure that our agents are as comfortable as possible and they're treating your members as well as possible in any scenario. So training and recertification and education is really important to us. We have rigorous internal and external audit programs. So if one of our clients wants to audit us, we have no problem. We are completely transparent, but we also, operate with our own and make sure that we are remaining as up to date and doing everything the right way. So we are auditing ourselves often and making sure that everything is being handled properly. And then the last little piece I'll go over on this slide is around complaints. I will say that we get complaints very little, and we haven't had a lawsuit in the past 5 years, but we always like to let credit unions know that we take them very seriously and that it really is a partnership. So the first line of communication will always be going back to the credit union and making sure that they're aware that the complaint happened and that we are proceeding in the fashion that they'll feel most comfortable. So every complaint will be handled the way the credit union feels appropriate, and there'll never be a gray area or, a member that we don't make sure gets corrected. But if we want to go on to the next slide, I'll go a little further into compliance. So I know I've said a little bit about compliance, but we really do work to be as compliant as possible because we find that this is the area that credit unions struggle with the most. There are so many changes to state and federal regulations and little changes all the time, and staying up to date with all the certifications definitely can be a task. So we have an entire team. Our Director of Compliance, his name is Tim Heber, and his sole responsibility is to manage our compliance and work with our quality analyst group to make sure that we're remaining compliant from everything from a program level, anything on a technology level, and anything from our agents level. We want to make sure that we are up to date and we're handling and taking everything as serious as possible. We do biannual FCCPA testing on all of our agents. Our technology is all TCPA certified. We are GLBA compliant, HIPAA certified. We follow the Fair Debt Collections Best Practice Act. Everything you can see here on the right-hand side, we have and are certified with, and we stay up to date with. So Tim Heber in our quality analyst group does a really good job to make sure that we are remaining as compliant as possible and that we're taking everything very seriously so that no one gets in trouble, because this is definitely the area of collections that can be the most daunting. If we move on to the next slide. This just goes a little bit deeper into our strategy. So the first is about, our collection strategy. Here we really use predictive metrics, like I talked about a little bit earlier, just to make sure that we are scoring the debt and making sure that it gets into the right hands of the agent at the right time. The next piece is our collections contact strategy. So, utilizing the dialer, making sure that we're contacting the members at the right time, making sure that the message is getting across, updating any, notes about if the client has promised to pay, if there are follow-ups that need to happen. We really want to make sure that we're staying up to date and, making sure that all of our agents are on the same page. And then our call handling strategy really goes into training. Training is super important to us. We want our agents to be as comfortable as possible, so we take it very seriously. And we do that first for our agents, but mostly for members, because we want them to be treated as well as possible. And there are a lot of scenarios that are difficult to deal with, and we want to make sure that they always feel comfortable when our agents make a call. Training and making sure that we keep training and keep open conversation with our agents and make sure that they're always learning and are always treating calls as great as possible is a big part of our strategy. And then the last little piece is really about, again, predictive metrics, putting it all together, making sure that the right agent has the right account, and that someone who is as experienced as possible is handling every single call and making sure that the member feels comfortable. We can move on to the next slide. So this is a look into our client portal. So if you work with CPRS, you'll have a log into this, and it is a real-time, up-to-date platform. So any efforts that we're making will be uploaded in here. You can see any KPI you would really want, and you can see anything from how many times an agent has made a call to a member, if a member is promised to pay, any notes that would be associated with the account you can see live in real time. So it really gives full visibility into the whole entire collections process, the whole process. So I think it's really good for members, credit unions, to be able to see what's going on in full visibility, since it is being outsourced. We always want them to, know what's going on and be up to date and be able to see it. So we work to make this platform as easy to use as possible. And this is where you can see your SOC 1 Type 2 PCI reports that I talked about earlier. and it was generated by FIS. So if there's a specific report that you're looking for that isn't already in there, we can work with you to make that happen. So really this platform is just an easy to use, up-to-date, and real-time platform that will give you visibility. And then the next slide, please. So this is just a look over our workflow. So it's going to be pretty quick, but it's basically just from start to finish what it will look like. So if you send us a batch report or a secure file that our team has set up for you, it will automatically be imported into our Access platform. And then from there, we'll send an acknowledgement letter out to a member that they have been sent to collections. And we'll give them a few days to have received it, have seen it, and then our agents will begin calling. At this point, it's, again, a very much partnership approach. So we have some clients who want us to work debt for 365 days. We have some who want us to work at 180 days. We've had some credit unions who have never handled collections in-house or outsourced, and they have some that they want us to work as long as 3 years or go back as far as 3 years. It's very much up to the credit union, and we definitely will give guidance if there isn't a preference, but it's definitely up to the credit union, and we want them to feel as comfortable as possible that we can work debt as long or as little as they see fit. After that, based off of the collection cycle length that we've decided, the debt will remain at CPRS or FIS collections until it is recalled by the credit union. Obviously, that's a very quick overview of what the workflow actually looks like, but I think it gives a good idea of what you should expect from a collection cycle. And then I have one more slide for you, if we can move on. And this is just a case study of another credit union that we've worked with. They were doing it in-house, and they weren't happy with their collections rate. So the first thing we really did was we shortened their internal policy from charging off debt at 90 days to 60. We think that that's a really good adjustment, and we find that just doing that does definitely help. We also did letter campaigns, inbound and outbound calling, debt verification, and we were able to get their recovery rate from a 9.1 to a 16.2 over an 18-month period. And we're very proud of this case study. We really like to help our credit unions be able to achieve recovery rates while also helping their members stay happy. That's really what we are in the business for. So this credit union saw a net revenue increase of about $150,000 monthly, which is very big for a credit union. We want them to help operate as well as possible. So that is the case study. I am done with all of my slides. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to hear our product. Thank you.
So, thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. And keep in mind, again, we talk about perspective, right? And we understand that this is a partner's webinar, and really the education piece, right? So not everybody uses our service. You don't have to. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready and you're looking for some agnostic notes or approach. And if not, it's okay. You'll have this anyway. But here are 10 key agnostic takeaways from this that will help you better engage your credit unions without having to reference anyone. The first is discuss with them their hiring practices, right? Do they have a hiring practice to get the best staff? Second, talk to them about their data storage. Are they actually storing what they're working for a myriad of reasons? Third, they're storing their data. Make sure they've had that built into their DR and BCP, or disaster recovery and business continuity practices, because you don't want a disaster to erase all your hard work. Fourth, think about your timing. Specifically when you're talking to your credit unions, talk to them about campaigns, right? Whether they're doing it themselves, or they're doing it through a partner, are they calling at the right times, or are they calling when it's legal to call? Fifth, the data that they're using, do you have a process in place to make sure it's accurate and that the reporting is reflecting accurate data? Six, once you have that data and the resources, is it properly prioritized? And is your credit union using it in the way that they want to, whether it be 30, 60, 180, or 365? Now, seventh, you've gotten in contact with the member, right? You're talking to your credit union. Do you have the ability to accept payment, right, in more than one way? And again, that's something totally that is often overlooked. Eight, you've hired, you have your process in place. Do you have effective continuing training practices, right? That's probably going to get them thinking. Ninth, what's your internal or third-party audit process? You know, you have these outbound calls, you have this data being stored. Is there a process in place to review that to know that you're being compliant? And finally, 10th on the agnostic list is, do you have a compliant resolution process in place for when a member does complain and threaten based on your collection practices? So, again, you had a really good perspective of what we do when we're taking care of our credit unions, because that's where our experience comes from. Again, there's a lot of bullet points in there, and we'll follow up accordingly and make sure you get the agnostic information as you're engaging your partners. So hold on one second, and questions here for Christine. Christine, could you take a couple minutes and talk a little bit more about training or best practices? Any specific insights there?
Sure. So we do a lot centered around training. You know, the first is that they're actually in a classroom type training program. They're not actually starting on the phones. You know, we want to teach them the best practices and how to handle, you know, bankruptcies or deaths in the family or very sensitive topics, because, you know, we don't want them to be trained on those. Obviously, we want members to be as treated as well as possible. So, you know, part of the training is really centered around also making sure that the agent isn't making calls before they're ready to make calls. So we do a lot of, you know, classroom style training, and then they have a 2-week shadowing period where they're actually sitting with an experienced agent. So they're hearing all of these different scenarios play out, and they're seeing how someone who is trained accordingly handles them. And we find that's really important. And then, you know, we're not throwing them to the wolves. We're making sure that someone else is sitting with them when they are making the calls, who can jump in and, you know, help them in any way possible, because, again, it really is about the member's comfortability as much as it is about the agents. We want to make sure that every call is handled properly. So just having continued support, and then, you know, every few months they'll go through more training, and we're making sure they're up to date and they're able to have an open line of communication with management. So they're constantly learning. If they get on a call and they didn't feel as comfortable as they had liked, they can bring that up to management, and they have an open field where they can talk about it and find the right answer so that the next call is better.
And how long do you know off the top of your head how long the agents shadow before they go live?
I believe it's 2 weeks. But that is after their classroom style training. I believe they do that for 2 weeks. I think that it's probably anywhere from a month to 6 weeks that they're in training before they're really making phone calls on their own.
All right. Thank you, Christine. That's actually all the questions in the queue. I appreciate your time today. It's very informative, very detailed, and I appreciate that. With that, again, I just want to take a moment and thank Renee for help in organizing and facilitating this, for Nicole, so I don't forget, on really taking care of the whole group. She's the brains behind this, certainly not me. I appreciate you, Nicole. Renee, any questions, anything at all is yours to close, ma'am.
I want to say thank you to Christine. Great job, Christine. We appreciate that. I, too, echo James's sentiments about Nicole. She just took care of business, and we appreciate her for that. I do want to know what number 6 is. You were saying it, and I was trying to get everything. So if you send out those 10 agnostics, I think that would be great to the group. Again, great information. I'm so pleased that our partners are able to know that AACUC is helping to provide products and services for your members that are going to make the difference in the members' lives that you are so responsible for. So thank you so much again. We appreciate the partnership. Hopefully everybody got something out of it and is going to give you guys some phone calls about what are the best practices and how can they do some things a little differently if necessary. So again, thank you, and that's all I've got.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Christine. Nicole, would you like to take us home, please?
Of course. Thank you guys for joining. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and thank you for attending.